Hey guys, for this week's episode, we had some technical problems. We lost about 30 minutes of content after recording about an hour and a half. Apologies to my guest, Hakim from Mascon Technologies. This week will serve as a part one where we talk about the maritime industry, the maritime economy, the market sizing, the value chain and how it works. And then towards the end, we do start talking about the problem solution, but we do get cut off. Part two will be a deep dive into the exact problem that Mascon Technology is solving and how they're solving it, and the traction that they're getting, along with their fundraise and the team behind it. So if you enjoyed part one, stay tuned for part two, and hopefully it comes out in the coming weeks. Let's dive right in.
We'll do 3, 2, 1. Do you go by just Hakim, or is it?
Yeah, you can just call me Hakim.
Okay, all right. Today we have Hakim, CEO, co-founder of Mascon, based in Singapore. Took a long, epic drive today. We're
About 6 hours.
6 hours driving from Singapore. Coincidentally, was here for the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, we would be doing this online, but I think it's much nicer to do in person, right?
Definitely it is.
And
amazing place you have.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. And it's I appreciate the effort. I think after 6 hours of driving, you could do another hour podcast. So it's all good, right?
It's all good. It's all good.
Okay. So to get started, let's just do a quick elevator pitch so people kind of know what the company you're building is all about, why they should care.
Okay, sure. Okay, so I'm Hakim, CEO of Mascon Technologies. We are building a solution for the maritime industry, specifically at the seafarers themselves and the ships themselves, ship operations. So what we do is we help to validate all the reports that are created by the crew members on the ship, which were previously either paper-based or untraceable. So what we help is we want to improve the safety of the seafarers by reducing all these operational stoppages caused by the lack of verification of their work done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so yeah, I saw on your LinkedIn, right? You had quite a long blurb. Is there any way we could shorten that maybe a little bit? Let's see. Let's try to make it more concise.
Sure. Okay. Let's say.
Hold on. Let me see. Let me say what you wrote on your LinkedIn, because it's quite long, but I think we can do better, right? So you wrote Chief Executive of Maritime focused frontline innovator based in Singapore. Okay. With a vision to empower ownership of maritime safety with technology, we aim to reduce vessel downtime by addressing safety lapses while optimizing man work hours. Sounds like a lot.
It is.
Right?
It's quite a mouthful.
So what would let's say out of there seems to be a few things here. Like, what would be the most important thing that we should focus on?
The focus should be on the safety aspect of the ships and the seafarers themselves, right? Because myself now, I almost died on my last ship and all that, right?
Yeah.
So
we can just get to that story later.
You'll get to that story later. But the part is we want to increase the safety of the ships and the seafarers themselves, because safety is a very important aspect of the operations of the ship. The ship cannot stop. And if someone gets injured or someone dies, the ship has to stop. And that's where the losses accumulate for the ship owners.
And then, we'll jump a little bit ahead. Why has that been such a big problem in the past?
Okay, so in the past, if you take a look at it, when ships go out from the port, they are totally disconnected from the land. There's no way that you know what is happening on the ship unless someone from the ship calls you or emails you.
Okay.
So right now, with the advance of internet penetration on the ships, almost 76% by 2025, they are expected to have all these digital technology and applications which they can use to be somewhat similar to what is happening on land, where there's a lot of collaboration, transparency, everything is super fast to achieve. Right now, it's literally Web 1. Yeah, so it's very slow. So it also helps with operations, but at the same time, the ship themselves, they can optimize whatever work is done by the crew members.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so let's put it all back together. So by focusing on safety, by leveraging technologies, what kind of values unlock then?
Okay, for the ship owner, let's start with the seafarers, because that's where my main motivation is, right? Because I was a former seafarer. So for the seafarers, I do not want them to focus a lot on verification or proving to the shipping companies what work they have carried out. Because that is half the time that is what they are doing. They are not focusing on the job that they are paid for. They're focusing on paperwork to show the companies, hey, this is what we do, because the companies have no idea whether they are even doing it because, like I say, totally disconnected from the world, right? So what we help is, we help to bridge that gap for the seafarers, and they are able to focus on their job, mainly to focus on the safety aspect, that they carry out the job safely and timely, rather than rush the job and then because I have to do 2 hours of paperwork, I want to finish the job fast and so that I can sleep earlier. No, we don't want that. So we want to improve their safety. For the ship owner side, is we do not want them to implicate the seafarers in any way and blame it on the seafarers, because the seafarers, most of them are just trying to do their jobs, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, we want to allow the ship owners to rely on these guys that they pay so much for to do the jobs properly.
Yeah.
We don't want any loss of, let's say, trust between the ship owners and the seafarers, because a lot of the problems which I hear from ship owners is that, I don't really know what's happening on the ship. I don't even know whether they even did the job, right? And then the seafarers are like trying doubly hard to prove that they actually did the job. So there's this trust issues between them. Yeah.
Interesting. So there are trust issues due to lack of clear real-time data,
That's correct.
lack of ability to kind of manage that, which, I guess from the perspective of a seafarer, someone working on the ship, they can be more efficient at their job. And I think we'll probably get into this later. I think that might be a big value unlock. I mean, are there very big, well-known examples of safety being compromised that then in turn probably sunk the whole ship?
Okay, let's take the most recent example, which is Dali. So the one that hit the bridge in Delaware. In US.
Very famous case recently. Actually.
Yeah.
That's probably a great something for you to put in your deck, right?
So the latest cross-examination by the investigators was that there was a safety issue by the seafarers. Someone found a problem and they just bypassed it, or they just assumed that it's not going to be an issue. So it caused
huge chain reaction.
Yeah, like a chain reaction. Actually, it was like a small power outage, and then everyone thought it was normal.
Yeah.
It became so normal that it became complacent. And then the ship owners also were not, I wouldn't say not aware, but I don't know how to read. In the report, it was they were aware of it, but they didn't really act on it. And the crew members also didn't really act on it. And then it caused the ship to lose power, hit into the bridge, collapsed, 6 people. I think the road workers died.
Yeah.
A huge financial loss from the closure of the port, etc.
Yeah,
So
port, the ship, the insurance, the whole value chain is quite insane.
It's crazy. That's just one ship.
Yeah.
And you imagine all the number. There's over 74,000 ships in the world.
Yeah.
Imagine every single one of them have some problems, and just one problem a year is going to cause huge loss to the economy.
Yeah,
That's my opinion.
Or even in that moment, probably Dolly crashing to that bridge, probably that day for that port, probably caused a huge backlog. And
I heard it was in the weeks kind of backlog kind of.
Yeah. So that's a very good example to kind of illustrate that, I think. And it's interesting. Yeah, maybe something to think about how to tie that being important of a problem relative to how one can see that value unlocked from a if I'm an investor, because I think a lot of people don't understand the space.
Yeah.
So if you just say safety, they're gonna say, "Oh, how big is the safety?" And then they might do some weird kind of a focus on a safety training or some kind of process that needs to be optimized. It doesn't seem like it's a big deal.
Yep.
But in reality, if you look at the whole value chain, it's probably has massive impact, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's break down this. Let's talk about the industry and the market, right? So how big is the maritime industry?
Okay, the industry is estimated to be valued at $14 trillion annually. That's where all the supply chain and all your cargo goes.
It's probably very broad. A lot of things that touch it, right?
Yes, yeah, I think it's the whole industry itself.
Yeah.
However, when it comes to the digital solutions part, a report by TTS and Imaset shows that by 2030 it's going to be worth $345 billion. And that's just the digital solutions and
just
IoT.
digital solutions.
Yeah, all the software, what is required to run the ships.
Which basically kind of updating the industry, right? Just adding a
Yes.
tech layer, which is completely missing.
Definitely, yeah. So the tech layer has been missing for a long time, but in the past 5 to 6 years, it's been been picking up very very fast.
Yeah.
There's a rapid innovation in the industry, especially when the advent of Starlink being introduced to the industry.
Starlink. Really?
Yeah.
That really helped, huh?
That really helped.
That's interesting because you'd never hear the narrative about Starlink. Like you kind of hear like maybe like villagers in some country doesn't have access, or even the more interesting one was, of course, in space, someone was using it, right? So I've never heard anyone talking about Starlink being beneficial for maritime industry.
It is. In my opinion, it is. I mean, I wish I had that when I was sailing.
Yeah.
But then, unfortunately, the ships that I sailed on never had Starlink. So there was either limited access to internet or no access at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this was like very recent, like up till 2022. One of the ship that I was on had no internet.
That's crazy.
Yeah, no email, no internet.
Okay.
I had to call once a month, kind of thing, right?
Okay. So break down the value chain for me. Like how can a person who doesn't know about the space understand the space, and like kind of what are the parts? Like we talked about ships being one aspect, but of course there's ports. What else is there?
Okay, the ships, the ports. There are also the like the insurance, the class surveys, the digital solution providers. There are also the hardware providers as well as the service providers.
Hardware providers?
Yeah, people who or manufacturers or shipbuilders.
Shipbuilders, correct.
Yeah, people who create all the different parts of the ships, etc.
Yeah.
The chain is super huge.
Yeah.
But the focus for us is mainly on the software side.
Yeah.
And the software side alone, if you take a look at it, just subscriptions is estimated about $138 billion by itself. Yes, currently. By 2030.
By 2030.
By 2030, 138 billion. Currently, it's roughly around like half of the size.
Okay.
Yeah, but that is changing very fast.
Okay.
Super
So
fast.
there's shipping, there's shipbuilding, there's ports, maritime services, offshore energy too, probably. Right?
Yes, offshore. There's also oil and gas. There's the bunkering services. Bunkers as in people who provide the fuel for the ships.
Okay.
There's the ship chandlers who provide the provisions and supplies to the ship.
Yeah.
There's even the financiers, people who want to purchase ships, and
Yeah.
the charterers, the cargo owners is a huge thing.
Yeah.
Even I myself am discovering new things along the way. Like, who are all these people, right?
Yeah, yeah. Because before you were working on a ship as an engineer.
Yes, I was.
And then you had kind of this narrow focus, but now you're kind of building a business around it, which is touching probably a lot of parts, right? So
a lot of things.
So I'm going to throw out some stats to help for the audience to kind of understand it better. Then maybe you help embellish or you help correct me see if I'm wrong. And I think there's some interesting ones here. So it's taken from the United Nations Conference of Trade and Development. 90% of the world trade is carried on ships. Mm-hmm. That's insane if you think about it. Like everything, like global GDP and trade, everything by ships, right?
Yes.
And I think you said 74,000 is a known global fleet. According to this stat, they say maybe about 100,000 ships.
Okay.
Which is interesting, right? Because it's like you think it's not in the millions, but it's something that it's probably how many big players probably own these 100,000 ships, 74,000 ships?
The rough figure is roughly around like 10%. The top 10% owns 30% of the ships.
Top 10% own 30%. So that's huge. Like you're talking, they're carrying 90% of the world trade, right?
It is.
Across these 100,000 ships, and then combined deadweight tonnage is over 2 billion. So that's a lot of weight to be shipping around, right? Interestingly enough, my source, maybe we're talking about different things about total market value, but they said it's over $1 trillion. So 14 maybe is probably very broad.
Oh, 14 might be like the whole value itself. Like
this is just purely maritime. So so maybe that's the difference in my number.
The trillion might be the logistics part where the goods are being shipped. That's where the cargoes as well as all the different containers are.
Container ships, bulk cargo, and oil tankers. That's what they said. So shipbuilding, which we talked about, is one of the value chain kind of part of the industry, mostly made in China, South Korea, and Japan. That's about 168 billion by 2027. That's the estimate. Port operations, like the major hubs, Singapore, where you're from, Shanghai, Rotterdam, 90 billion by next year. Oil and gas, offshore drilling is about 200 billion alone, right? Maritime, there's insurance, legal compliance, and technical support that makes up the rest. So it's huge. And then if you want, you can also think of it from the largest economy in the world perspective, U.S. Mm-hmm. Estimates, like it's an old number, 2022, the number was 476 billion USD, 1.8% of US GDP, right? So very big for US, pushing trade around the world. Yep. Steady growth, it'll grow 2 to 3% each year. Here's an interesting one. U.S. employment, right? So the maritime economy in U.S. is probably about 600 billion, but 2.2 million jobs globally. 2.2 million jobs in U.S. and globally it's around 3.2 million jobs, right? So quite huge. 69% of U.S. trade is via marine economy, right? And 41% of its value.
41%. Wow, that's huge. Huh?
Yeah, so like I'm not sure like people who don't know the space, because when I was researching, I was kind of like mind blown of like how big the scale of like all these 100,000 ships are pushing it, right? Yeah. And the fact that it's on very, very old technology. It's mind blowing. Here's a very wild statistic that I found out. 1% of global trade is done by air freight. 1%.
Okay.
But 35% of global value.
Wow.
It's a huge disconnect, right? Because 90% of trade is done by like, ships, but then the value is not necessarily that amount, right? But 1% is, so of course that means it's like high value, low weight, pharmacies, luxuries, electronics, perishables, right? So it's a good comparison, I guess. Do you know anything about the airspace at all, or?
Not so much, but because it's a kind of like a similar or parallel industry that we're looking at, so we do some research into it.
Yeah, but would you say the airline's much more advanced technologically?
Definitely. So some of the solutions that we see in maritime is actually imported from the aviation industry themselves.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, okay. Like for example, how the engineers carry out their work. Is something that we also are looking at how we can incorporate that part and improve the safety of the ships, just like how the engineers improve the safety of the airlines themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, what I like about this kind of industry is that there seems to be so many potential on-ramps for technology as a solution, as a layer to add enormous leveraged value, right? Which unlocks more wealth, more efficiencies, lower costs, more savings, which means more trade happening. Because we're moving global trade, right? So I think that, if there's so many different parts of the value chain, and then you just got to focus on one niche that's big enough. Yeah. If you tackle that, then you start, connecting to the other parts of the value chain over time. Yeah. So I kind of like learning about that. I mean, and do you have any thoughts around that?
In my opinion, there's a quote by the Chief Executive of Maritime Authority of Singapore. He said that the maritime industry is huge enough for everyone. So, for example, like me, we are focusing on the seafarers themselves and the safety of the seafarers.
And so to put that to context, U.S. is 2.2 million jobs. That not all seafarers, but I guess within the maritime industry, and then 13.2 million worldwide, right?
It is. Yeah. I would say the numbers are a lot more. Maybe they don't count the people who support the indirect industries themselves.
Okay, so you're talking just direct.
Because like seafarers themselves, there's about 1.9 million seafarers, about 1.9 million seafarers in the world.
1.9 million across, according to you, 74,000 ships.
74,000 ships.
The average ship has how many?
The average ship has anywhere between 20 to 30 seafarers. Okay. Like cruise ships will have a lot more. But
so that's the kind of niche you're focusing on.
That's the niche.
Okay, sorry to finish your quote.
Yeah. So what the industry says is that it's super huge, right? To put it into context, a ship is worth like maybe anywhere between $20 million to $150 million.
Yeah.
And if you check on ChatGPT, how much is the earning potential of just this 1.9 million seafarers globally? Yeah. Is at $93.6 billion globally. That's their earning potential. So that's how much the seafarers are being paid by the companies.
Okay.
Just to work on these ships.
Yeah.
So it's very
just the ships alone.
Yeah, expensive ships, expensive workforce.
Yeah.
Just to move trade.
Okay. Yeah. So to talk about since you're talking about the seafarers and how your Mascon is starting to focus there first, how can they understand how a ship is organized and run, and then?
Okay, let's do the basic breakdown. Okay, so on a ship there are two main departments and one other department. Okay, the first one is of course the deck department, the people who navigate the ship, they drive the ship. Yeah, the deck officers, the captain, and then there's the engine department, people who operate the machinery and make sure the ship is running, which are the engineers like myself. Yeah. Right. And then there's also the electrical department as well, electricians, and also there's also a catering department, just to keep everyone well fed. So these are normally what you can find on the ship themselves. So in total, there's like between 20 to 30 crew members on a particular ship. But think about it, these 30 guys are working on, let's say, super tanker, 330 meters long.
330 meters long.
Carrying 350,000 tons of oil.
Yeah.
So that's a huge amount of oil just to move around, and it's only carried by 30 people.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are wondering, like, so
That seems like a very small crew for such a massive ship.
is. So previously, when my uncles were sailing, they had like anywhere between 40 to 50 people running the ships, and they had smaller vessels.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this because of technological improvements over time?
Yes, definitely. As the equipment get better, and there's being software being introduced, you get to automate some of the jobs that are being done.
Yeah.
So you can reduce the number of crew members.
Yeah.
Just like how AI some of them are replacing some certain jobs, but they are also creating opportunities in other areas, right?
Yeah.
So the same way it's being built in maritime as well.
Okay.
Because there's a shrinking pool of seafarers worldwide. If you check,
That's the trend.
that's the trend.
I have to trust you. So.
Yeah, it's shrinking right now. So there are lesser people willing to go on the ships.
Okay.
But companies are still stuck in technological rut where they are still using technology that is like 10, 20 years old.
Yeah.
Even my CTO went on a ship for the first time and he looked at the software. He goes like, "Why does it look like it's from 1998?" Right?
Because it probably is.
It probably is. No, it was super basic. No UI, UX, nothing.
Yeah.
So as long as it works, it works. So what we are here for, we want to improve the way people work. We want to make it simpler. I'm solving my own problems, because for the 10 years I was sailing, I was like, why isn't there a better solution? So that's where we are creating what we are creating right now.
Okay, so I understand. So then, let me focus on let's talk about some comparative startups in the space then.
Yeah, sure.
So in terms of big startups or tech startups or disruptors, or I guess in a sense you're not really a disruptor, you're kind of a value add kind of startup, right?
Yep.
Who are the biggest guys that you kind of know or see?
Okay, so you can break it down into two parts. One is the legacy systems, the incumbents. They are already there in this industry for very long, mainly owned by big entities.
The monopoly on this kind of stuff? Or
I would say they are the only main players because they know the industry long enough, well enough.
What are some names, for example?
Okay. One of the things which I've used, like a plan maintenance system, is from ABS, American Bureau of Shipping. They have a software called NS5, Nautical Systems. So I used that when I was at sea last time.
Okay.
So it was a very simple enough system, but it can be quite complicated.
Yeah.
I probably use only like 10-20% of the whole system.
Interesting.
But the cost is actually quite high just to subscribe to it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of modules in it. These are the legacy systems.
Yeah.
What I also see right now are the innovators or people who are trying to come into the maritime industry. Either they have some form of maritime background, or they're actually from like industry like construction or aviation, where it's quite similar, and they are addressing the problem statements in maritime, and it's like, hey, something new. What I noticed personally was the legacy systems, they are quite inflexible because they are so used to building things and letting it run. They can't just change a whole module totally and without disrupting their clients' operations.
But it probably makes sense why it was done that way, right? It's almost like an ERP, right?
It is.
I think shipping is probably extremely high stakes. Huge amounts of cargo value and lives on the ships.
Yes.
So I guess there's a certain rigidity to the processes, and then systems kind of. Again, I guess that's kind of their moat, right? It's very hard to.
You have to keep the operations running because per day it can cost up to $100,000 per ship just to operate one ship.
Yeah.
Right.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's a very expensive operations, and the margins are not that high in shipping, by the way. But it's based on the volume. The volume is
of
very
course.
high.
Yeah.
On the other hand, when you take a look at the innovators, right, what I notice is that they need more help or advice from shipping people because unless you've sailed on a ship before, you won't know 100% what is happening on a ship. Yeah. If you only visit it like once a week, once a month, it's not the same as staying on board it for 6 months, 10 months kind of thing. So what I see is that they are sometimes the new guys that they come in, they try to build a solution that might negatively affect the lives of the seafarers. I mean, might not say create problems, but make it a little bit more difficult. Because like I say, they have a certain way of doing things. Yeah. And if you come in and try to disrupt, or rather than value add, you might be disrupting something which has been running,
Yeah.
and it's just in a way where it makes life a little bit more difficult for some people.
Interesting.
Yeah, technology can have a negative effect as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And so these new guys, is there any guys who've raised lots of money? I mean,
There are.
yeah.
Yeah.
Is it directly in your space or just the maritime in general, ports as well?
Okay, so actually in the maritime space as in general,
Yeah.
right? But also in software that are similar to what we are building, not exactly the same. They have a similar kind of concept, but they are targeting a separate segment of the ship itself.
Oh, interesting. So who would this be?
Should I say?
Yeah, it's up to you. Yeah.
Yeah, I know of one company which was actually they have quite a nice idea. I think it was from Germany, Kaiko.
Okay.
Yeah,
Kaiko.
Kaiko, yeah.
Okay.
Kaiko.
Did they raise a lot of money or?
Yeah, they raised some money in 2022, if I remember correctly. I think they raised a seed around
end of COVID almost.
Yeah, end of COVID. I mean, at that point of time, funding was a little bit more
The
easier.
The environment was easier.
Easier, yes. So, I saw the solution. It was nice, but of course, it needed some updates or some improvements in order for the seafarers to use it, right?
Okay.
Because like when I saw it, I was like, okay, this aspect is good, but this no,
Yeah.
I can't use that.
Would it be different across companies and countries in terms of what was needed, or is it pretty fairly standardized?
Okay, if you look at the industry themselves, if it works on one ship, it works on all ships.
Okay.
It's kind of a global from day one kind of thing.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Then on the port side, anything like there's probably Flexport, which is
yes.
massive.
It's huge, but some of the, I wouldn't say haters, but people who have some opinions on them.
No, give us the dirt. Tell us. What do industry insiders say about Flexport? Because if you're in a tech world, it's all hoo-wah, it's amazing, everything's great. You're a genius. No offense. I mean, just that's the feeling you get when you hear about it, right?
I mean, what I heard and what I've read, I don't really have much opinion on them because I'm not a port kind of person.
Okay.
Right? But what I've read and what I've heard from people who do is that, yes, they are amazing for someone who doesn't know what maritime is. The amount of traction that they generate, is quite amazing. But from someone who's inside the industry, who knows the industry from A to Z, it's like they are just another what they call it, another agency.
I see.
It's just software enabled, but it's just another agency kind of thing.
Okay.
Where there are so many agencies. It's not an innovative kind of thing. This is quote unquote from someone. Like it's not an innovative kind of thing. It's more of how you put it, a software enabled agency where anyone can do.
Okay.
They haven't really found exactly what they particularly want to focus on. I mean, this is what I've read from someone.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's not my personal opinion because I don't really have
I see.
much experience in the port side.
Okay. Understood. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know as much about it as well. So I mean, we probably shouldn't talk too much about that. But but I mean, it's tricky. From an incumbent, it always seems like that. But then I think having that kind of outsider opinion sometimes help with novel solutions. Yep. So it's almost a balance, I guess, in a sense.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah. Let's move on. So, what are some of the best innovations that you've seen in the space then?
Some of the best innovations. Honestly, if you ask any seafarer, they'll say internet. I would
just
guarantee you 100%.
internet.
100% if you ask what's the best thing that happened on the ship, and everyone will just say, "Oh, my ship has Wi-Fi."
Is it now ubiquitous, and how was that solved?
Because of Starlink mainly.
Mainly Starlink.
Mainly Starlink, and because once Starlink got introduced, a lot of other players started to.
Well, because now people can build off that infrastructure.
It is.
It's like having the railroad, and then you could build off next to it, or a highway, right? Then you could build off of it. So it was just missing that digital infrastructure.
That is, and they just need that one disruptor that pushes everyone forward, right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise, it's super slow.
Yeah.
I would tell you honestly, if you talk to any of the people who have been around for at least the past 5-6 years, they always say all the companies are super slow to adopt.
Yeah.
But lately, once the big guys started moving, because of they
Then
got
everyone
Starlink,
follows.
everyone started to follow.
Are you a beneficiary from Starlink too then for like all your IoT ideas?
Starlink, actually, I'm a partnered with a reseller of Starlink. So if a
okay.
ship that doesn't have
you're a little biased
internet, I
there.
can. No,
But it makes sense though, right?
it makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I can sell, but when I first saw it, I believed in it.
Yeah.
So that was
Because
the
you had the
difference.
problem and you knew it's like a real need.
Yeah, like I said, in 2022 on my ship, I didn't have internet. I didn't have an email account to send emails to my family back home.
Yeah.
I only call them like once a week, once a
Yeah.
month kind of thing.
Yeah. And then have you been able to use Starlink on a ship at all or no?
No, I've only, when I was building my solution,
Yeah.
I did go on board some ships that had Starlink.
And then you
So I
used
was
it?
fortunate to try. Yes, it was super fast.
Super fast. Okay, that's
Super
what I want to ask. Because were you out at sea as well, or?
Okay, it was in Anchorage. So
Yeah, okay.
technically
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
near the port.
Yeah.
But when I asked like, hey, when you're out at sea, how does it go? Oh, it's the same.
It's the same.
Yeah,
Amazing.
I was like, wow. When one of my ships, previous ships, they had internet.
Yeah.
When the ship was out at sea, some days, maybe like 2 to 3 days, there's no internet.
Mm.
Or the internet was super slow that one WhatsApp message
Yeah.
will take me like a whole day to send just to get that one tick.
How does pricing work if I'm a ship owner and I want to get Starlink? Does it cost a lot or is it?
No, it's super affordable. I'm not allowed to discuss the pricing as
okay.
in for my reseller.
I see.
But if you go on the website, you can take a look. It's like 50 GB for $250.
Okay, by publicly. Okay, so
Publicly.
then it's almost like normal internet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's close to 5G and like
Yeah, then you could
who
actually
doesn't have?
stream things and
you can video
could-
call.
Yeah,
It's, in a way, it can help to innovate or accelerate the innovation of, let's say, survey or remote surveys or remote inspections. Where people need to see visually, like, what are things being done. So that's what I'm doing with my app, because my app can work offline. It's for companies that do not have or do not want to adopt Starlink yet, or do not want to fully rely on 100% internet connectivity. They want to have a peace of mind that everything is being done.
Well, because there might be a point somewhere in the ocean where
Yes,
Starlink
they might be
doesn't
connected.
work,
That's the
and then
thing. Yeah.
So has any company gone fully internet native and run systems fully?
No.
No, it's
not
probably
that I
possible,
know of.
right? Yeah.
Because there are still dark spots. Even Starlink claims 99%. So technically, there's still that 1%.
Still will happen. It will still happen. Right. So you still need contingency and the backup, I guess. Okay, interesting. Do you have any strong contrarian views in the space? Like, what is everyone saying yes to that you're saying no to, or what do you strongly disagree with against a consensus?
Personally, okay. If they are going towards a decarbonization or sustainable future, right?
Yeah.
I think it was by 2050. 2040 is for the people on land.
Yeah.
But I think for shipping was 10 years later. I think somewhere around the lines of 2050, if I remember correctly, where they will fully decarbonize.
Okay.
So one of the things which I see is like everybody is jumping onto electrification, right?
Okay. What does that
EVs.
mean? Of a ship?
Yeah, the ship. Okay,
Is there even a manufacturing capacity to do that?
They can't. Not possible yet for the ship.
Because
So
just a giant motor, which there's no supply chain for.
if you go by the current calculation estimates, it needs the batteries that need to be put on a ship in order to run it from one port to another port is gonna take most of the cargo space, and it's gonna weigh the ship so heavy that they can't really carry any cargo.
Yeah.
So the ROI is not there for them yet.
Okay.
So technically, they are doing electrification for smaller vessels.
Okay.
Like launch boats, things that are very near to the ships, to the land themselves.
Okay.
Yeah, but not in particular the ships. So the ships, I agree that they are going to change to more sustainable fuels or renewable energy. Like now, like there's wind.
On a ship?
Yeah, they are using like wind turbines or something.
Okay.
Not turbines. It's like a rotor which collect.
But powerful enough to power a ship?
I wouldn't say power a ship. It just collects
maybe run systems?
generates some electricity. I've not sailed on them, so I can't really say for myself.
Yeah.
But then again, my grandfather was sailing on those ships long ago. I mean, ships with sails.
Yeah. Actual sailboats.
Yeah, but now we're going back to that somehow.
Yeah.
Another part is, of course, they're going to use like ammonia fuel, methanol,
okay, better fuels.
LNG.
Okay.
So of course, much cleaner and etc. But for myself, like if they were to electrify the whole vessel, I would not agree to it.
Yeah, it's just not possible probably.
I don't think it's possible. I mean, the amount of lithium batteries that you have to mine, or lithium you have to mine is going to be crazy.
You'd have to. This would definitely need government support. Otherwise, it probably is not feasible.
Even EVs on land, that there are some issues which have yet to be discovered. Right? Even though we do some strategy planning, we see try to tackle or try to mitigate the risk of things happening in the future.
Yeah,
there will be something that we didn't thought of. That might be a consequence of going to EVs, for example.
Yeah.
And one other part for me is like, some people are asking me, hey, there won't be any seafarers in the future. It's going to be autonomous vessels. Right now, it's smart ships.
Yeah.
About how the ships can...
like an airplane almost?
Oh, yes.
But you still
like
have a pilot.
Yeah.
Right?
We already have that system where they can just go on autopilot and the vessel will navigate themselves and the officers just
so they
have
have
to check.
that already.
Yeah, they do correct their course once in a while.
Yeah.
Right? But fully smart vessels, I like that idea a lot because it helps in the way people make their judgment. Sometimes you misjudge something. Sometimes people have certain biases that cause accidents along the way.
Yeah.
But with data, big data, algorithms, you can mitigate that risk in a way where there's recommendations.
Yeah.
But for me, autonomous vessel is something way into the future.
Yeah.
At least.
What are we talking? Like hundreds of years?
I wouldn't put an estimate, but it might be soon, but
Definitely not in 10 years.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
But definitely not globally.
Yeah.
Because I feel that as long as the robots are not able to do exactly what a human being can do and operate in a way where it's offline, you don't need electricity kind of thing, right? Then we can have autonomous robots. Just as an example, my ship in the middle of the sea blacks out. And by right, there's a safety feature which is supposed to bring the power back on within 45 seconds. It's part of the regulations, right? The emergency backup. However, what if the emergency generator doesn't come on within the 45 seconds? So suddenly there's full blackout and no electricity. How are autonomous vessels supposed to come back online, come back to life?
Yeah.
So who's going to be there to salvage, etc., etc.?
Correct.
So unless there's a human being who can walk around in the dark with a flashlight trying to find the problem, who knows the problem because he's been doing it for the past 20 years, until then, I feel that autonomous vessels are still a long way away.
Okay.
Yeah.
But do you see the efficiency curve getting there? So over time, more jobs will kind of get out of it, and it will just be a core set of humans that kind of run a mostly autonomous vessel, or how do you view that?
Okay, from the trends that I see, it's not that the jobs are being phased out. It's actually the jobs are being migrated or evolved in a way. Last time there used to be a demand for deck officers and engineers. Now there's lately a more demand for electricians and developers in the shipping industry themselves, which is something which is quite different from what I used to when I started sailing in 2011. Nobody was hiring a developer. Right? Why do you need to hire a developer? Everything's manual on board. We are still using pen and paper, Excel sheet. I don't need a developer.
I see.
But then now it's totally different.
Now, So it's technology is getting there.
Yep.
Okay. Do you have any views on port congestion? Is that do you think that's going to be? Because we're far from COVID now. Things are smoother. But do you think that's going to?
Okay. From recently, I was part of a strategy planning for the maritime industry in the National University of Singapore.
Okay.
So some industry leaders sat down and we were looking at that particular item, right? How the port congestion or a certain area being blocked off is gonna have a snowball effect on the rest of us.
Which we've seen a few times in the past few years. Right?
So one of the things that we talked about and we saw was that yes, that is a high risk thing, but we are prepared for that already.
Okay.
They have secured their own supply chains, in their suppliers, and they can reroute things. It might take a little bit longer, but it's not gonna fully stop. The problem is if it fully stops, what's gonna happen, right? No, what they are aware is that we cannot fully stop, but we can make it a little bit more delayed. It's fine, right? And they are totally prepared at that.
In what sense? So you're talking about Singapore very specifically. What? So they just reroute, or like how
Let's
does
say
that-
the Red Sea now, right?
Yeah.
With all that's happening over there, the
yeah, a
conflicts,
lot of risk of the war and
a
people
lot of the
shooting at
ship
boats.
owners, they are rerouting around the Cape of Good Hope,
Okay,
which is
so
South
that
Africa.
before they would go where?
sorry,
So before they would
No, they would just cut through the Suez
through
Canal.
the Red Sea, which is
Yeah.
actually much faster.
Yeah.
So how much time is lost by going around and keep a good hold? Hope.
I think it was like somewhere along the lines of about additional 2.5 weeks. It wasn't
Okay.
that much.
Okay.
It's actually lesser than that.
It's a compounding effect, though, right? 2 weeks.
It's actually lesser than that. In my experience, there's only a difference of about 7 to 8 days.
Okay, really? Like in
It's
total?
not,
Okay,
because I've
okay.
gone through the Suez Canal
Yeah.
and I've gone through South Africa route.
Yeah.
Right? And the difference was only about, if I remember correctly, was about, if I went through Suez, it will be 38 days to reach America. And if I went by the Cape, it will be 42 or 43 days.
Okay.
Yeah, so it wasn't that much of a difference.
Okay. But in a grand scheme of things, if you have thin margins, just saying like hundreds of $1,000s a day, it can make a difference if, sure, maybe if you, because we kind of know the situation now to stay
Yeah.
away. So now we could kind of plan. But if another thing happens, and what happens you add another few weeks, right? So,
Yes.
and I think that's maybe what people don't have the insight of understanding how sensitive this 90% of your trade is relative to what's happening around the world of shipping, and why all of a sudden your costs might go up in certain areas or
Yes.
not. It's because it's all tied to this, right?
Definitely.
So it's very, very interesting.
It costs a lot just to delay the ship
Yeah.
by 1 day.
And one of the strategies maybe people have talked about before mitigating that, I mean, of course, was like, how do you manage port congestion? What about nearshoring, reshoring? Do you have any opinions on that?
Nearshoring and reshoring.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate more?
So conventional view is nearshoring, reshoring trends due to geopolitical tensions, supply chain vulnerabilities will decrease the volume of long-haul maritime trade. So I guess
Okay.
it is. It's like, so manufacturing is brought back on,
Okay.
and then that's going to affect like maritime trade. So you have to probably reduce the amount of ships for trade.
Oh, okay. I mean, the consequence is less trade, means less ships, means less jobs.
Yeah,
It's
correct.
like going to compound everything.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be a vicious cycle kind of thing.
Yeah.
What I feel, in my opinion, is until and unless you can find a viable source within your own region, like let's say Europe, right? You can build as cheaply or manufacture as cheaply as in China.
Yeah.
Global trade is still going to continue. It has been around for 5,000 years.
Yeah.
Because some things you can get in some parts of the world, others you have to bring in from another part of the world
Yeah.
just to manufacture the same thing. So,
Yeah.
in my opinion, it won't be totally cut out. But if we take a look during Donald Trump's time, he wanted to bring back manufacturing back to America. It was a move, but I don't think many of the companies who are looking at their ROIs will totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Because I think it's cheaper to, the margins are a lot higher to manufacture somewhere else compared to spending 5 times more back home.
Yeah, correct. It seems like number one, it's going to be impossible to displace Chinese manufacturing, right? So that whole value chain is also just another insane piece.
It is.
And then I think inherently every country, for at least for the past 100+ years or maybe longer, have over time, if your economies are growing, have learned to specialize in something. And then by right, you can't really displace that trade easily.
Yes, that's
or
true.
it'll take a lot longer, more effort, more investment cycle, right, to probably get there. And then, even still, you're not going to get rid of this kind of differences, right? So,
I mean, one particular point which I've experienced personally was the growing trade in Africa.
yeah,
Where previously we were like, Africa is just just another white person's colony. They're just gonna take all the resources out anyway. They are all selling their countries and resources. But then when my ship was there, I was like, hey, these guys are actually quite advanced. They have a lot of ships waiting in their ports.
yeah,
And I felt that they're gonna be the next
Africa.
China. They're gonna be the next China or the next Southeast Asia.
it's all growth from there.
It's just you have to look out for who's the next player that I wouldn't say exploit, but who's the next player that is hungry to grow.
Yeah, correct.
And how are you gonna stop the trade if you're in America and you set up a factory in Africa, you
Yeah,
still have to trade.
Demand's going to be growing. The population's growing. It's just a massive country, right?
If it's not this person who wants to do it, someone else will pick up.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. And we did talk about this, labor shortages. You see the employment in the maritime space shrinking.
It's crazy.
Were you only talking very specifically for the ships?
Okay, for the seafarers.
Seafarers, okay.
Yeah.
But it seems to be, I think labor shortages is also a general trend in the maritime industry.
It is. I will just give you a very simple example. Last time Singapore was quite a good seafarers hub where there's a lot of seafarers.
Yeah.
My uncles, my grandfather, we're all from Singapore, right?
Yeah.
But now, even myself, before, at the age of 31, I already stopped sailing.
Yeah.
People used to sail till their 40s, their 50s,
Yeah.
and they come back on land and find a good job, for the next 10, 15 years to settle down. But now, like myself, once I got my COC1, which is the highest level of certificate for the marine engineer,
Okay.
I came back on land and I stopped sailing. So that's one less seafarer.
Yeah.
But at the same time, people don't see the cost benefit of going out to sea. There's not much incentive for them to go out to sea when on land you can earn the same amount and not be away from the family.
Yeah.
So it's the person who goes is either they are quite desperate for money or they have a passion. Like for me, I really love the sea because it's kind of in my blood, right?
Yeah.
So I really wanted to go out to sea regardless of what the pay. But then I realized the pay was quite nice.
Yeah.
But it's not so different or competitive for myself back in Singapore. It might be for people in, let's say, in India or Philippines, where they earn 10 times, 20 times more than
It's
their
exactly what you just
peers.
said. If you don't want to do it, someone from there is going to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But even then, the people over there, they choose not to go to sea. Or they, apparently, because if you take a look at the current reports, there's going to be a shortage of about 100,000 officers within the next decade, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
Yeah, meaning people on the ship who are working on the ship, they will have less chances to go back home because there's someone who might not come.
How do these really big companies operating in the maritime logistics space, ship owners, builders, how do they think about this trend? Like, is it in their mind that they have to really push technology hard and fast now to kind of match this dying trend, or are they just going to throw money at it and then people will come back when the prices of the salaries are inflated?
Honestly, I see it. They are quite in a passive mood, I would say. Like
they're making a lot of money now. They don't. It's tomorrow's problem.
It's tomorrow's problem. Right?
Ooh, okay.
That is
That's going to be someone's margin. Yeah.
That's what I'm feeling it, right?
Okay.
Like, the big companies, they know there's going to be a shortage.
Yeah.
Right. And they are big. They have the name.
Yeah.
They have the pull to get these seafarers. Hey, I'm hiring. People will jump.
Yeah.
But what about the smaller companies?
Yeah.
Who's going to join the ships? Already on some of the ships I know of, some people can't go home because there's either they are looking for someone or someone's not ready.
Yeah.
They're always looking for seafarers, but people are leaving as fast as they are joining.
Yeah.
Because there's better opportunities there. You get more experience. Bigger companies want you, etc. And then some of them, they got like me. Got my certificate, my COC, and I'm done. I come back on land. I find a shore job and I spend time with my family.
Yeah.
There's a lot of difference, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So what I see them going is like they try to incentivize. They don't really inflate the salary. Actually, salaries over the past decades has actually stayed stagnant. Yeah, it was flat. Yeah, actually, some reports even show that it actually decreased.
Really?
Yeah, as the US dollar became weaker, salaries also became weaker because everything is pegged to the US dollar in shipping. Everything uses USD.
Yeah, traders. Yeah.
But for the big guys, they're like, okay, you join my ship, you'll get better welfare. Better, we'll care for you. You'll have internet.
Yeah.
You'll have good food. You'll have a better technology. You'll have a shorter contract.
Yeah.
Because they know people don't sail 12 months anymore. They don't sail. My uncle he sailed for 28 months straight on a single ship. I was like, what?
That's crazy.
Yeah, but that was the old days. Now people want to go home.
Yeah.
Some European companies, they are so good. They take care of their crew so well that they have a 6 weeks on, 6 weeks off kind of arrangement. And the crew are very happy because they work 6 weeks.
They get paid on the 6 weeks off?
Yes.
Wow.
They get paid. And it's
That
a
makes sense.
very
You need
competitive salary as well.
It makes sense because you want to lock in this talent who probably, it's like you said, it's highly specialized. And if they leave, then
And these guys, I've talked to them. One of them actually have been with the company for 28 years. He said, why should I leave? It's such a comfortable arrangement for me.
Correct. Yeah.
But then you go to like smaller scale companies and they go like, oh, once I have enough seat time here, I'm going to apply to that company. Right? And they're going to apply for that. So that brings me to like another solution which Mascon is building. It is something called Certify, where we help to get the seafarers to verify their certificates with the course providers that they took the course with. And we want to create a community of verified seafarers, people who actually know what they are doing, who have been there, done that, and have real certificates. Because trust me, there are some people who actually buy their certificates out there. And it can.
But that's how you
safety as it.
Yeah, you crush ships when you do that, probably.
Yeah, it's the same as a pilot buying their airline cert, right?
Yeah.
You don't even know how to
think about it.
It's a safety issue.
Yeah.
So we want to create that community as well. And what we realize that this is I wouldn't say a low barrier to entry, but it's a low hanging fruit which we feel is the right time time to embark on, and get this community of seafarers, verified seafarers. And get them to connect with the ship owners. It enables them to either increase their opportunities. Because right now, for a ship owner, you just have to wait for someone to come in, or if you know a seafarer who you want, you try and hit 100% from the other company. But general job searching sites, they are just general. They're not specifically for the seafarers. But for us, we really want to focus on the seafarers themselves, right? Get them into a community, get them to have some leverage or some leeway in finding the right opportunities for themselves, and for the ship owners to discover these guys, right? They're all over the world, but exactly where? You have to find them. That's the problem right now.
Well, let's zoom in then, right? Because I think we understand the market pretty well now. So that's not this the seafarer certification kind of problem solution is not your original one. So let's talk about the original idea that you had first of what exactly is the specific problem that you saw, and how exactly are you solving it?
Okay, let's go to the backstory of how I even got there, right? So as you know, on my last ship, I almost died, right? A fire broke out. I went in to fight the fire.
That's crazy.
There was equipment failure, right? I was wearing the breathing apparatus, and after 25 minutes of fighting the fire, when I was done, I realized that my air bottle had about 2 minutes left. So it was a thick smoke. It was very hot. It was very dark, even though it was 2 p.m. And we were drifting off the coast of Cuba, right? And I didn't even know that the air bottle which I was using was almost ran out. I only because the whistle was short, which was supposed to let me know to change the bottle, wasn't working. So that's when I realized, hey, every week someone is supposed to be checking this.
Correct.
But the guy probably wasn't checking it. Then you go to like Toyota's 5 whys, like why didn't he check this? And you're like, oh, because he was busy. Why was he busy? Oh, he was busy because he had a lot of paperwork to send. Like, why did he have a lot of paperwork? Oh, because he had a lot of backlog from all the other jobs. Like, why is it? Because there's there's so many things that he need to do. He did the job, but he needs to prove it on paper, right? So it kind of like got to where I started building Mavis, which is the marine validation utility system, right? For me, the word validation is what is very important. To validate the jobs that these guys do. He's not just bullshitting and
he's actually doing his work.
He's actually doing it. He's not signing it off.
And then probably making it more efficient, right? Not having to fill out paper.
Because right now, the way is you go to the item or go to the place and you sign. It's just a piece of paper. Inspector comes.
Anyone can sign,
Honestly, I've even done that. Like when I didn't have time when suddenly a lot of problems had happening at once, I didn't have time. I just waited for the next week and I just sign off.
And what if you don't sign? Everything stops? Or
no, because you are at sea. Like I say, we are disconnected. So let's say you have a 4 weeks voyage. Who's going to check the equipment?
Correct.
So if nothing happens, you get away with it. You're just signing it off. And sadly to say, I've done that before. Right? I didn't have time before because of all the paperwork I had to do before. And then you take a look at these guys, like they are trying to do their jobs. But they just they're not equipped. One is not equipped. Another one is there's no accountability. Right? You go back to a seafarer, like I say, if you've never sailed on a ship, you do not know what it's like. And what's the main motivation of the seafarer? Most of them is money. I just want to get money. After 6 months, I go home. I don't care
Money
what
and
happens.
comfort.
Yeah, money and comfort. I want to do the most
Least amount of work.
the least amount of work for
Most
the
money.
most money,
Yeah.
right? It's human nature.
That's everyone. Yeah.
So if you can get away with it, why not? And if you have gotten away with it for 20 ships, for 20 years of your life,
Yeah. You're like the 99%. It's just the next guy might be the 1% or something like this.
and I've seen that in many ships where people just like do enough to get by and go home,
Yeah.
and the next guy suffers.
Yeah.
I've
You've
seen that multiple times, and I feel that a software solution like what I'm trying to build will help to reduce that kind of information gaps
Okay.
or lack of accountability and traceability for these guys themselves.
What specific problem in this are you exactly solving? And it's just only software, or is it also hardware?
Okay, so we do have hardware ourselves because we understand that nobody wants to use their own iPhone to climb down a 10-meter tank, and halfway through your phone drops. Who's gonna pay? Right.
The company doesn't even pay for phones.
Yeah, so we do have our own explosion-proof devices, which we preload our software onto it lah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we give it to the crew. So we've done POCs on that, and I would say,
POC?
I mean we proof of concept. We
yeah.
tested it with the seafarers and asked their opinion. Glad to say 100% really liked it,
Okay.
because at the end of the testing or at the end of the questionnaire, they asked me like, how do you know all these things? And I look at them like, I'm one of you,
Yeah.
right? I know what you want.
Yeah.
It's because it's the same thing that I want. I'm like, oh, okay.
Makes sense.
It makes sense.
Okay. So give me a hard example of the biggest problem that Mascon is solving on a software hardware level.
Okay, for the hardware, is not really much. We just source it out from somewhere, a manufacturer.
Okay.
But for the software itself, it's for we are solving the part where the people on land are able to see the steps taken by the seafarers.
Okay.
Yeah,
So there's
a traceability feature. It
oversight.
creates oversight. It creates accountability.
Yeah.
And also it gives them an overview, because if it's paper-based, you don't really know what's happening on the ship for that day. You at the end of the week, you get a report like, okay, 43 jobs are done.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. But now you get an oversight. You have an overview of what's happening across the ship the moment you log in.
Yeah.
Right? In the morning, you see like, okay, these are the jobs being planned.
Yeah.
You shorten the feedback loop.
Yeah.
You shorten the time it takes for you to react in the event. Like, okay, you want something done in a particular way. You don't have to wait 1 week, or you don't have to call the person, are you doing it now? No.
Yeah.
You can see it then and there and actually interact with it and interact with the crew like, hey.
Yeah. There's a few layers of oversight and accountability. So the guys on the ground doing it, someone also maybe checking. Technically, there's managers watching them. Technically, then on land they can watch it as well.
It's like a collaborative tool, like let's say with Notion, etc. You can even see collaborate with all your team members.
Yeah.
But imagine that